Waking from his slumber, this gunner named Yuyudo finds an arcana labeled as the Lovers. Confused, he asks his father if he left it there, only for his dad to cheerfully announce that Yuyudo has been chosen as a demon king candidate. Baffled by his parents' excitement, Yuyudo presses them for information, and his father admits they work for demons. He explains that when he was jobless, a demon offered him work in a company run by demons where he'd have to help them manage the human world. Thinking his father is a schizo, Yuyudo is shocked when his dad conjures fire with his bare hands while his mom shuts off the stove without touching it. With a proud smile, she announces it's time for him to transfer to Jinsei Golden Star Academy, where all Demon King candidates are sent. Coming to terms with his new reality, Yuyudo excitedly arrives at Jinsei, but is met with glares and whispers since he's the first human to attend Jinsei. Suddenly, a limousine stops in front of him, and a rich brat steps out of it, making Yuyudo freeze. He quickly concludes the guy is on another level when, suddenly, another demon appears and rudely tells him to stop gawking at Aspet. Realizing he's the new transfer student, the demon named Guelt calls Yuyudo a pig and makes fun of him for being a frail human. Before things could escalate, Yuyudo turns to leave until Guelt insults his parents. Ticked off, he tells Guelt that it's always the guys with 3 inches who run their mouths the most. Enraged by the disrespect, Guelt hurls a magic attack towards him, making Yuyudo freeze in terror. But before he can meet his end, a girl steps in time and dispels Guelt's attack. Feeling offended by the intrusion, the demon swears at the girl named Lizle, calling her arrogant for turning down Aspet's offer to make her the world's queen. Lizle retorts, asking why he's so fruity for Aspet, prompting Guelt to state in frustration that Aspet is literally the heir of the Line family. However, Lizle dismisses him and says she only has business with Yuyudo. Hearing this, Guelt roars that he can't even feel any mana or magic coming from Yuyudo, which is a clear sign that he received the arcana of the Demon King by some mistake. Sighing, Lizle shoves Yuyudo forward and whispers that the arcana he has is also called the Lover's Arcana, which will teach him necessary magic without fail. Seeing him tense up, Lizle assures him that he just needs to wish for a shield to protect his body. Suddenly, he hears a voice state that he has now acquired defensive magic. Now exposed to magic circles he has never seen before, Yuyudo thinks to himself in bewilderment that he can understand these magical circles. Pleased by this, Lizle teasingly tells him that the voice he just heard was the Arcana's voice. However, at the moment, all Yuyudo can think about are those udders pressed against his back. Before all his blood can flow down to his south pole, Lizle orders him to focus on pouring mana into the magic circles that are only visible to him. Meanwhile, Guelt feels like a third wheel, so he fires a magic attack towards Yuyudo, who yells the words Magic Barrier Barricade and successfully stops Guelt's attack. Relieved, he tells Lizle they should haul out, but she stops him and says it's now time to use offensive magic. Sighing, Yuyudo calls out to the Arcana, begging for an offensive magic which he can use to protect Lizle. The Arcana instantly accepts his request, granting him an offensive magic called Great Blaze Taiga, which he uses to push back Guelt. Amazed by Yuyudo's power, Lizle introduces herself as a second-year student and tells him that it was a pleasure meeting him. However, Yuyudo starts feeling dizzy and ends up falling on Lizle's pillows. A few hours later, Yuyudo wakes up dazed and wonders if he is in the school's infirmary when, suddenly, he hears a feminine voice asking if he's awake. As he fully becomes aware, he realizes it's Lizle in her God-given suit. Now embarrassed, Yuyudo asks her why she isn't wearing anything, causing her to reveal that she was performing a recovery spell on him, which required skinship. Confused, Yuyudo tries to ask what she means, and the baddie explains that since he just awakened as a Demon King candidate, using simple magic will be detrimental to his body. She further elaborates that it's basically a magic called Healing Lovers, which allows her to transfer her mana into his body by simply putting her solid tankers against him. Moreover, if the bond between them gets stronger, their magic will also continue to have greater effects. Blushing hard, Yuyudo changes the subject and asks, "What place is this?" Lizle then informs him that it's called the Lover's Team Antechamber, but he can also call it the Palace. When she reveals that they're still in the academy, Yuyudo becomes rather confused, so Lizle tells him that every Demon King candidate is given an antechamber, proudly declaring that it was she who designed the palace. Putting back her plot armor, Lizle assures Yuyudo that she will give him more details tomorrow that will help him win the Demon King War. Gulping down in horror, Yuyudo tells her that whatever she said certainly doesn't sound fun. In response, Lizle reveals that he is correct, and she cannot guarantee he'll live because, soon enough, he will have to face demons who possess extraordinary powers. At that moment, Yuyudo realizes his status is going to change from Gunner to Goner real soon, when Lizle assures him that a Demon King candidate is given cards to aid him, and right on that cue, she begs him to turn her into his card. Hearing her request, Yuyudo begins to ponder, realizing that Lizle had an offer from a strong demon like Aspet, and in comparison to him, he is basically a loser. So when he tries to tell this to Lizle, she tells him with a smile that he can grow strong too, as she will personally train him to become worthy. Despite being tempted by Lizle's curves, Yuyudo tells her that he cannot accept her offer and wants to return to his peaceful human life. But that's when she reveals to him that he has already peeked into the world of magic and cannot go back. However, Yuyudo raises the point that he is nothing special when Lizle tells him he is wrong. And in fact, he is loved by the Arcana, revealing that he is a genius who was able to master 2 spells right away. Before he can say something stupid, Lizle blinds his senses by pushing her Grand Canyons against him. Suddenly, 2 girls arrive asking Lizle if she is done with the ritual. Seeing them, Yuyudo concludes that he must make a religion where melons are worshipped. Meanwhile, Lizle quickly scolds one of the girls named Miyabi for her sudden intrusion. However, she playfully replies that she simply couldn't wait anymore. With that, she excitedly introduces herself to Yuyudo, revealing she is a first-year student. Yuyudo instantly zeroes in on her chest, acknowledging that she is even more blessed than Lizle. The second girl shyly steps forward, revealing herself as Riene, a second-year student. Focusing on her appearance, Yuyudo concludes that Riene is like a small puppy. Suddenly, the overzealous Miyabi tells Yuyudo to get the card ritual over with. To persuade him, she even lets him do a patch test, which makes Yuyudo's mind completely blank. He then hesitantly reveals that he still doesn't know anything about the war. Huffing in annoyance, Lizle states that if it wasn't for the 2 nuisances, she would have finished the contract by now. Riene cries over her mistake while Miyabi treats everything like a big joke and asks Yuyudo to hurry up and make them his cards, prompting him to ask if it's something like a master-slave system. Miyabi elaborates that he could call them his retainers, but if slave is what he prefers, then she would be down to do anything for him. Hearing such profanities from her mouth, Lizle tries to reprimand Miyabi, who counters that this is how they are supposed to serve Yuyudo anyway. Yet her senior calls her too vulgar and urges her to be more delicate about such matters. Shrugging away the scolding, Miyabi hugs Yuyudo's arm, insisting that it would be better if they charm him. But Lizle doesn't like this, so she tells Miyabi that her behavior is the reason why people do not trust her. And besides, Yuyudo isn't a Gunner. Upon hearing this, Miyabi unbuttons her plot armor and teasingly asks Yuyudo if what Lizle is saying is true. Just when his filthy mind is about to cave, Yuyudo conjures up some self-respect and tells Miyabi to give him some time. This shocks the fatherless girl as Yuyudo continues by saying that he still doesn't know much about this academy or the Demon King War. So before making them his cards, he needs to think wisely, as he doesn't want to impact their lives negatively. At that moment, Miyabi realizes Yuyudo is not like other men. Putting on her usual cheerful smile, she tells him that she is willing to have a trial period where she will aim to convince him of her appeal. Stepping forward, Riene takes Yuyudo's hand, assuring him that he can take his sweet time, but he should know that he can count on her. Seeing that sweet smile, Yuyudo makes up his mind that Riene is no less than an angel. As the girls turn to leave, Yuyudo stops them and asks Lizle why she is picking him, a mere human, when she has offers from other Demon King candidates. In response, she reveals that her ancestors have always served the lover's arcana, but that is not the only reason, as she wishes to serve him on her own violations too. Continuing on, Lizle states that she liked how he had the willpower to stand against injustice even when his opponent was far stronger than him. Finding her too close to his comfort, Yuyudo hesitantly tells Lizle that what she just described is a weakness. Disagreeing with him, Lizle replies to him that she doesn't want a world to be ruled by fear and injustice. A ruler should bear love for his subjects. That is why the one who possesses the lover's arcana should be the next demon king. With that said, the three demons tell Yuyudo that they were all destined to meet him just so they could have hope for a better future. The next day, his mother asks him how life is at Jinsei Academy, but Yuyudo struggles to respond since he can't tell his parents that freaky demon girls are dying to have a practical exam with him on the subject of reproduction. Jumping on the topic, his father claims that he has been so worried for him that he hasn't been able to play games. This makes Yuyudo wonder whether the rings given to them not only make his parents young in appearance, but also at heart. His dad then proudly states that it's amazing that their son is attending Jinsei, since the academy only takes prodigies, elites, and nobles. Hearing this, Yuyudo concludes that Lizle's family must have their own private Epstein Island if that's the case. As he steps out to leave, his parents tell him that they're already proud of him, so he doesn't need to participate in the war for the Demon King if he doesn't want to. Once he leaves his home, Yuyudo realizes that his parents are definitely aware of the life-threatening battles that come with the candidacy of the Demon King War, and that is why they have been worrying about him so much. All of a sudden, a Rolls-Royce stops in front of him. When the window rolls down, Yuyudo is shocked to see Lizle, who calmly reveals that she is here to accompany him. As the driver pushes him inside, Yuyudo apologizes to her for causing her inconvenience, but Lizle assures her that she is doing this of her own accord, as she doesn't want him getting attacked. Upon hearing this, Yuyudo becomes rather worried when she consoles him by saying she will not let anyone lay a finger on him. Bummed out, he asks Lizle if she thinks it's lame for a woman to protect a man, but she states that she is a feminist. And secondly, he has only just begun learning magic, so it's natural for him to need protection. And one day, he will manage to surpass her. Taken aback by the thought of surpassing Lizle, Yuyudo shyly reveals that it's all too surreal for him. In response, Lizle assures him that this is his truth and reminds him that he even heard the Arcana's voice. When Yuyudo casually discloses to her that it even woke him up today. Stunned by this, Lizle asks him if he has been using his Arcana as an alarm. Yuyudo nervously replies that the Arcana did it on its own, which shocks the demon, who claims it is unbelievable how he is so loved by his Arcana. Mistaking her surprise for disappointment, Yuyudo asks her if she is mad at him when Lizle asks him if she should start waking him up. Before he can reply, the car comes to a halt and the two get out. As they head towards the school, Yuyudo asks her if she was born with a silver spoon in her mouth, but Lizle slyly replies that it's safe for him to assume that she comes from nobility. However, taking no credit for her lineage, Lizle tells Yuyudo that it was all her ancestors' doing, and she has yet to accomplish feats herself. Meanwhile, Yuyudo observes his surroundings, realizing that a lot of students fear Lizle's presence when she suddenly tells him that soon, they will fear him more than they fear him. Arriving at his classroom, Lizle tells Yuyudo that this is as far as she can take him. Thanking her, he assures her that he will be fine, but that's when the demon drops a bomb, claiming that she will be transferring him to his next attendant. All of a sudden, Yuyudo finds his arm bamboozled by Miyabi's bazookas. Before leaving, Lizle warns Yuyudo to avoid unnecessary contact as much as possible. On that note, Miyabi latches on to him, claiming that it's important they make as much contact as possible so that she can get picked as Yuyudo's retainer. Sighing, Lizle lectures her that Yuyudo needs to gain everyone's trust. With that, she takes her leave, letting Miyabi take control from there. Stepping into his class, Yuyudo is instantly gawked at like he is the eighth wonder of the world. This makes him realize that he will get hated for just being a human when Miyabi tells him not to get bothered by it. The teacher enters the class shortly and tells Yuyudo to take his seat, while Miyabi informs him that this is their homeroom teacher, Miss Taki, who is known for her strictness. As Yuyudo searches for his seat, Miss Taki scoffs and tells him that it feels like a disgrace to have a human at a prestigious academy like Jinsei. Suddenly, Yuyudo finds himself surrounded by whispers, all wondering whether it was some mistake that brought him to an academy for Demon King candidates. As he tries to keep himself calm, the wicked teacher tells him that just standing there like a loser will get him a penalty when, suddenly, the blackboard magically writes up a formula. Taki then asks Yuyudo to solve the question, and in return, she will allow him to sit. The students break into murmurs again, wondering how a mere human will be able to solve a magic formula. Analyzing the formula, Yuyudo reaches the conclusion that Taki is purposely bullying him. Left with no choice, he turns to his arcana, begging for help. All of a sudden, Yuyudo picks up the chalk and tells Taki that she has made a few problems while writing the formula. Before she can speak, he continues by revealing that he knows it is a formula for world destruction. Baffled by Yuyudo's answer, Taki thinks to herself that if Yuyudo proceeds to finish the formula, he will be acclaimed as a scientific genius, so she quickly rubs the board. Yuyudo then raises the matter of his seating again, when a boy yells that they shouldn't get fooled by his capabilities because at the end of the day, he is still a mere human being. He then points at Yuyudo, claiming that as the Baron of the Sanju family, he will expose him as a fraud. Ticked off, he replies by asking the nuisance that if he shows him a few magic tricks, will he find him a seat. Sanju agrees but tells Yuyudo that he'll go first and displays a lousy magic spell that even makes a human like Yuyudo disappointed. Finally, when it's his turn, Sanju mocks him by saying that he will probably fail. Yuyudo, on the other hand, ponders whether he should display his full potential to this moron or hold back. In the end, he decides to do the same trick he did yesterday when he met Guelt. Both Taki and Sanju are in complete shock at the sheer power of Yuyudo's spell. Sanju even starts regretting his life choices, but it's too late now as Yuyudo yells, "Hayda," completely obliterating the whole class. When he sees the damage done by him, Yuyudo realizes he is pretty screwed and tries to seek Taki's help, who backs against the wall in fear. In the meantime, Miyabi bursts into laughter, calling him a show-off while Yuyudo starts overthinking about how he is going to get suspended. Much to his displeasure, he is called to the principal's office. Thinking he is about to get a whooping, Yuyudo is surprised when the macho hunk of a principal casually greets him. Upon seeing him, Yuyudo nervously asks him where the principal is when the buff demon grabs him by the shoulders, stating that he is the principal. Shocked, Yuyudo fails to believe that this hunk is his principal, as the demon proceeds to casually reveal that he goes by the name Gandu. But what shocks him is when Gandu announces he is the current Demon King. Instantly straightening up, Yuyudo hears Gandu state that there are still a lot of things that he doesn't yet know. Just when he starts getting nervous, Gandu excitedly reveals that he will tell him all that he needs to know. With that said, he asks Yuyudo if he knows why Jinsei is known as the Demon King Academy. Without waiting, he says it's because the next generation Demon King always happens to be selected from this very academy. However, he points out that his case is extremely special since a human student is unheard of in the history of Jinsei Academy. Gandu further reveals that it was the academy that recruited him, but the lover's arcana chose its master. When Yuyudo questions why this would happen to a lowly human like him, Gandu frustratedly answers that he doesn't know that either, which is why he is so worried. Hearing this, Yuyudo tries to apologize for causing too much chaos, but the principal assures him that it is not his fault, and he is more than worthy of being part of the Demon King War, where he will have to eliminate other 22 candidates for the role of the Demon King. Noticing his despair, Gandu quickly hypes him up by saying there are many fun events included. When Yuyudo curiously asks like what, Gandu states that the war basically spans out throughout the entire year, and during this period, candidates have to partake in a myriad of events, and if he performs well, then his chances of winning the war go up, as well as he will be rewarded with powerful items which he can utilize in the final battle. Yuyudo then asks him whether he can turn just about anyone into cards. Confirming it, Gandu states that all he needs is a contract, and voila, his cards are ready to be used. When Yuyudo raises the question about what happens to those who aren't chosen as Demon King candidates or cards, Gandu reveals that those people decide which Demon King candidate they will support. With that said, Gandu pushes Yuyudo to do his best since he will be competing with the candidates who come from wealthy families, and to achieve that, he should recruit the best cards as soon as possible. Yuyudo asks one final question, whether he truly deserves to participate in this war, which causes Gandu to suddenly go all serious as he asks him if they should talk about anime instead. Knowing the chat is over, Yuyudo quickly takes his leave and finds a seat waiting for him in his classroom. When he tries to apologize to Taki for causing a commotion, She quivers back in fear and quickly tells him that it's fine. Shortly after that, Lizle arrives, asking him to have lunch with her. Pleased to see a friendly face, Yuuto happily comes with Lizle, who announces that they will be having lunch in the school's cafeteria. When the food is presented in front of him, Yuuto looks at it like he has been starving for ages. Upon facing Lizle, Yuuto realizes that her parents must have made her with lots of love. All of a sudden, Lizle brings her fork near his face and asks him to open his mouth. Suddenly, Yuuto becomes self-conscious as everyone stops to stare at him. Lizle, on the other hand, assures him not to worry about the extras, causing him to finally accept the offering. Tears start to pour out of his eyes as he realizes that he just had an indirect kiss with Lizle. Once they are done having food, Lizle continues to show him around the school. However, seeing him tag along with her, people start to whisper about why someone as Lizle is hanging out with a filthy human. Before Yuuto can become depressed, Lizle proudly clutches his hand in hers and tells him not to let others get under his skin. Yet Yuuto cannot help but ask her about the class system among the demons. So Lizle reveals to him how the system works, also informing him that the Demon King will not only control the most powerful magic families of the underworld, but he will also be the ruler of the human world. During this conversation, Lizle reveals that the magic families extract energy from humans by moving their hearts and giving them all sorts of emotions. She admits that at times, demons would also make human beings purposely suffer in order to extract their energies. Hearing this, it finally clicks to Yuuto why Guelt called him a livestock. Noticing his expressions, Lizle quickly informs him that not all magic families are evil, who would resort to making humans suffer for their own benefits. In fact, some demons create art and architecture to ignite positive energy from mankind. Once Yuuto hears this, he thanks Lizle for being honest with him. That's when Lizle states that she is glad he is a candidate for the next-gen Demon King, because unlike other demons who are seeking glory and power, he, as a human being, can rule both worlds with love. With that said, the two step into the gym when they are greeted by the horrifying sight of Guelt lying unconsciously. Next to him, a scary-looking dude asks him if he is Yuuto, the guy who had to babysit Guelt yesterday. Startled, he responds by asking the guy just who he is, prompting him to reveal that he is a card belonging to the world, called Krieger the Knight. Hearing this, Yuuto stupidly wonders if he is a friend of Guelt when his question is answered by Krieger stomping on Guelt. Confused by his behavior, Yuuto asks Krieger if he is on Guelt's side or not. The Roidhead angrily states that since Guelt lost to a mere human, he is a disgrace to the world, and his actions are similar to throwing dirt on his master, Aspet's face, which he simply cannot forgive. With that said, Krieger tells Yuuto to keep his Pinocchio nose out of this. But of course, Yuuto, being a good guy, yells at Krieger to stop, stating that there is no need to annihilate his own ally. Now pissed, Krieger retaliates by raising his sword at him, announcing that he will just start by finishing him first. As Yuuto looks at his impending doom, completely dumbfounded, Riene arrives on the scene, carrying a sword of her own, and boldly tells Krieger that she will not let him lay a single finger on Yuuto. A swift clash of swords ensues between the two as Krieger acknowledges her, stating that he has heard about her possessing a good mastery of swords despite being a blossoming talent. Observing their conversation, Yuuto starts to feel bad for dragging Riene into his crap, so he steps forward and tells her that it is simply unacceptable for her to fight his battles. Both Lizle and Riene try to object when Yuuto cuts them off, insisting that he will not be worthy of the Demon King crown if he cannot even overcome problems like these. As he announces that he will defeat Krieger himself, Lizle backs down but places his hand on her heart protectors. She then tells Yuuto that since he has already used magic today, he needs to replenish it if he wants to win against Krieger. Adding on, Lizle warns him not to show any softness towards his opponent because the outcome can result in his death. Removing his hand, Yuuto assures Lizle that this is good enough for him, and as he turns to face Krieger, Lizle tells him that he got this. Seeing this crap show, Krieger calls Yuuto a dimwit for not using those women, but he counters, stating that since he hasn't forged contracts with them, he cannot use them. Either way, Krieger doesn't acknowledge his good side and proceeds to label Yuuto a moron for being angry on behalf of Guelt, who was rude to him. In response, Yuyudo claims that what Guelt did to him was wrong, but what he is doing to him is worse since you cannot treat a friend in this manner. Enraged by his words, Krieger yells that he is utterly disgusted by him and unleashes a magical attack on him. Yuyudo, who only knows Hayda, decides to use that spell, which further makes him a target of mockery until Krieger's eyes widen in horror, realizing that the formula is evolving. Before he can react, Krieger comes under the attack and realizes he actually lost to a filthy human. Meanwhile, Yuyudo is shocked by his own powers as Lizle compliments him when suddenly, she grows quiet. Just when he asks her what's wrong, Yuyudo's eyes widen as he wonders why he is feeling like his life is in danger. Seconds later, Yuyudo hears a voice, belonging to none other than Aspet, the Demon King candidate who owns the world Arcana. Upon seeing his master, Krieger tries to get up when Aspet addresses him and says that he came here since he heard he was punishing Guelt, but the story looks completely different to him. Before the card can explain, Aspet dismisses him and turns towards Lizle, asking her why she is messing with his cards after refusing the summoning order from him. Lizle quickly points at Yuyudo and tells Aspet that it was all his doing. Surprised, Aspet asks Krieger if there is truth to Lizle's words, and when the poor chap confirms, Aspet angrily summons a magic formula. Just feeling the weight of the spell, Yuyudo realizes that the possessor of the world Arcana is on a whole different level. Meanwhile, Aspet orders Krieger to stand up and asks if he has what it takes to become a knight for him. When Krieger nervously claims that he does, Aspet confidently asserts that he is going to be the one who will rule over mortals and demons, and so, in order to achieve that, he needs absolute power over his enemies, and yet his own knight is in a feeble state. Seeing his fury, Krieger tries to tell Aspet that the fight isn't over yet, and he will prove to him that he can win. Just when the knight swears on his sword, Aspet smirks and kicks it so hard that it shatters into pieces. With that, he asks him why he is swearing on a sword that failed to cut a mere human. Krieger, on the other hand, is completely dumbfounded as his sword, which was not only supposed to be unbreakable, but was also a family heirloom, is now completely useless thanks to Aspet, who then tells him that he's not worthy of being his card. Hearing this, Krieger begs for a chance, when Aspet scarily looks at him and pushes him away, which sends him flying into the wall. Meanwhile, Yuyudo observes closely, realizing that Aspet's power allows him to break the unbreakable. Clearing his throat, Aspet stresses Lizle and asks her to join his side, but the demon remains confident in her stance and tells him that she is already serving someone. She further disses him by saying that he is the kind of demon who enjoys overpowering others, which she is completely against. Upon hearing this, Aspet looks at Yuyudo, realizing he is the one who Lizle wishes to serve. Scoffing hard, he states that he is the one who will rule this world, so anyone who isn't him will kneel in front of him in servitude. Addressing Lizle again, he tells her that if she disobeys him now, a future where she will serve him still awaits. However, Lizle states that she opens for a better future, prompting the arrogant brat to claim that she will soon regret this. With that, he walks away, leaving Yuyudo awestruck. Lizle admits that he will make a formidable opponent, while Riene is just glad things did not escalate further. Upon returning to the palace, Yuyudo succumbs to darkness. Moments later, when he wakes up, he finds 3 baddies looming on him. Realizing he is definitely at the palace, Yuyudo quickly turns serious and apologizes to the girls for causing them so much worry. Furthermore, he calls himself an idiot for provoking a strong enemy like Aspet, which he cannot win against for another enemy who treated him like trash. However, Lizle assures him that this is what makes him so wonderful, and that is why they are pleased to serve him. One by one, he is showered with love by all 3 of them, making Yuyudo tweak out. Clearing away his filthy thoughts, Yuyudo then asks the girls if they truly think he can become the next Demon King. When they all give him assured smiles, Yuyudo confidently asks Lizle to lend him her powers so he can rule the worlds. Just as the words leave his mouth, Lizle places a kiss on his mouth. A voice announces that Lizle Heimkami has now become a queen. With that, she vows to devote herself for Yuyudo's sake. Before he could react, Miyabi gives him a fun lesson in French and then teases him for being nervous. A voice announces that Miyabi Yuyugeas has now become a princess. Riene, on the other hand, nervously says that she is worthless, but asks Yuyudo to accept her. Hearing this, He places a kiss on her lips, prompting the omniscient voice to state that Riene Kowai has been prompted to knighthood. Once the whole ordeal is done, Yuyudo acknowledges that he cannot go back anymore. Now, he must become the next demon king for everyone's sake. Meanwhile, at the world's palace, Aspet calls a meeting where he angrily states that it is truly surprising that a human like Yuyudo took down Krieger. Hearing this, his card named Hayda reveals that Yuyudo has officially made a contract with 3 cards including Lizle. This further enrages Aspet, who curses Lizle for declining him and forging a formal contact with Yuyudo. Continuing, Aspet states that all this time, he has used his powers to defeat his enemies and force them into ultimate submission. This act has given him great pleasure, as he had truly instilled his fear into the hearts of others, and that is why only he is fit to rule. Hayda further riles Aspet up by insisting that what Yuyudo has done is unforgivable, and they simply cannot let him hog all the huzz. Agreeing with him, Aspet claims that he can crush Yuyudo whenever he wants, but Lizle will be the one to truly feel the burn of his fury. Excited by his master's violent intentions, Hayda assures Aspet that he will squish Yuyudo and kidnap Lizle for him. However, he asks Aspet to let him have Miyabi. When Aspet asks why Miyabi, Hayda shamelessly says Miyabi's curves make him crazy. Once Aspet gives him the green light, he warns him that he will simply not allow any failures since he is his ace, and his defeat means death. Smirking maliciously, Hayda assures his master that he will eliminate Yuyudo and give him Lizle as tribute. The next day, Yuyudo hears a sweet voice telling him to wake up. Thinking his lover's arcana sounds a bit different today, Yuyudo almost gets a heart attack when he finds Miyabi, who casually reveals that she was with him throughout the night. As it turns out, the little devil sneaked in through the window. Seeing him asleep, she decided to just big spoon him through the night. Sighing, Yuyudo then asks her why she is dressed like the king who thought he had a special invisible suit on. Miyabi proudly reveals that this is how she usually sleeps like. Suddenly, Yuyudo hears his dad's voice and begins to panic. Before he could hide Miyabi, his father enters the room and Miyabi casually greets him, revealing that she is the daughter of Yuyugea's. Hearing this, Yuyudo's father yells for his mom, announcing that Yuyugea's daughter has graced their humble abode. Once his mother arrives, Miyabi assures her that Yuyudo is in her capable hands, so she doesn't need to worry about anything. Suddenly, Lizle arrives through the door like a normal demon, and then extends her apologies to Yuyudo's parents for coming without prior notice. When she introduces herself and announces her family's name, Yuyudo's parents are completely shocked that they have someone as important as Lizle at their shabby crib. In the meantime, Lizle narrows her eyes and scolds Miyabi for acting so carelessly. However, the princess fires back at the queen, asking why she is at Yuyudo's house. As Lizle struggles to answer, Yuyudo sighs and says that he is awake, so there is no need for this drama when Miyabi latches onto his arm, insisting that she will be the one to take him to school today. After that chaotic evening, Yuyudo faces a training dummy. When he fires his favorite go-to spell, Fega, Lizle is impressed by the destructive power of a simple spell and tells Yuyudo that it may be on par with its advanced version, Fizzard. With that, she beckons him to come closer so they can replenish his strength. As the two hug, Lizle whispers to him that the reason why he possesses such strength is definitely because of his arcana, but regardless, he should still continue practicing more and more so he can grow stronger. With that, she urges him to try out the spell Fizzard. Agreeing with his teacher, Yuyudo asks his arcana to teach him Fizzard. Once the learning process is completed, Yuyudo thinks to himself that he is not sure he will manage to fire the spell correctly on first go, but when he yells Fizzard, the whole room ends up resembling the Chernobyl nuclear plant. When Lizle accesses the damage, Yuyudo asks her if he did something wrong, prompting her to reveal that the execution was flawless. Suddenly, Yuyudo motorboats Lizle's pillows for a quick charge up, claiming that she was right. After encountering Aspet, he finally realized that he needs to get stronger in order to win the war. Upon hearing this, Lizle consoles Yuyudo by assuring her that he has yet to tap into the true power of the lover's arcana. However, she warns him that she will have to remain strict with him until the war, since it requires a lot of hard work to become worthy of the title of the Demon King. However, by the time Lizle is done talking, Yuyudo concludes that her milkers will be his ultimate kryptonite. The very next day, Yuyudo works out in the gym when Miyabi arrives and offers him some water, insisting that he take a 5-minute break. However, upon seeing Miyabi in tight gym shorts, Yuyudo realizes that the only thing he wants to drink is her sweat. Noticing the thirst in him, Miyabi teasingly tells him to look all he wants since she doesn't mind. Grumbling shyly, Yuyudo asks her why she is wearing that outfit to begin with, which prompts her to come closer to him. With her bazookas suffocating him, Miyabi then tells him that it's because she wants to replenish his energy faster using her outfit. Yuyudo realizes that Miyabi is telling the truth as he feels the power flow through his body, although all his blood surely goes straight to his South Pole. To crank up the heat, Miyabi tells him to feel her dumpy. And when Yuyudo does as told, Miyabi starts making happy dolphin sounds. Once they are done having their little cardio session, she quickly tells Yuyudo to get back to lifting heavy weights. As the training goes on, Yuyudo reflects that throughout most of his life, he never worked out, so Miyabi's strength training program has definitely made him exhausted. Meanwhile, Miyabi tells him that in order to prepare for the Demon King War, he must also train his physical body and asks him to watch closely. Yuyudo quietly observes as Miyabi channels magic with her physical strength and punches the boxing bag hard. When she asks him to try it, Yuyudo recalls the magic formulas used by her and asks his arcana to help him get the hang of the formulas. Once that is out of the way, Miyabi tells him to prepare for a quick sparring session. As Yuyudo activates the magic spells, Miyabi looks at him in awe, surprised that he mastered complex magic formulas so quickly. Without giving her a heads up, he charges at Miyabi, who quivers in excitement. As they battle, Yuyudo states that if he manages to touch her, it will be considered his win. And with that, he grabs Miyabi's chest. Letting out a squeal, Miyabi tells Yuyudo not to grab her so roughly, which shocks him since she is the one who is usually playing around too much. Hearing this, Miyabi self-consciously asks him that he must think she is fatherless, but Yuyudo assures her that he knows that despite her flashy appearance, she is a serious person. So when he asks her to stop using him like a toilet seat, Miyabi refuses and says that she will ride him like a pony as punishment. Later that day, Yuyudo thinks to himself in the shower that training just a little won't be enough to bridge the difference between him and Aspet. This makes him rather anxious, and he starts wondering whether the girls are giving up on him when he overhears Lizle and Miyabi's conversation on his progress. Lizle alerts the girls, revealing that Riene felt a strange presence during night shift, which means a smart enemy might sneak up on them sooner or later. This shocks Yuyudo, who realizes that everyone has been working tirelessly for him while he slept, blissfully unaware of everything. Continuing the conversation, Lizle states that if the lover's arcana loses another war, then Riene's family will lose its nobility status. It then becomes clear to Yuyudo just how much is at stake, as he hears Miyabi say that if they lose, she will be sold off to an old noble man. However, Lizle tells the girls to get a grip since they can let Yuyudo know about all of this, or he will worry needlessly. Meanwhile, Yuyudo realizes that he has been acting like a crybaby all this time when there is too much at stake. Outside, Miyabi confidently states that she believes Yuyudo can become the next generation Demon King. Surprised by her claim, Lizle asks her what changed, since she was the one who doubted him the most and tried to seduce him. Miyabi replies, revealing that it was her way of testing him, and then throws the question at her, asking if she is sure Yuyudo will become the Demon King. With 100% surety, Lizle claims that Yuyudo will be the next Demon King. Hearing this, Yuyudo vows to himself to get stronger. As he steps outside, he asks Riene to help him get better at sword fighting. Riene agrees when he is attacked by Miyabi's gravity defying honka-donkas. She playfully teases him that he is just dying to have some Riene time. Sighing, Yuyudo accepts his fate, acknowledging that he must become stronger than ever. The following day, he enters the class and realizes his seat is next to Guelt. When he tries to ask about his well-being, Guelt gives him a shut-up call, making Yuyudo realize that he is still discriminating towards humans. Just when he decides to keep to himself, Guelt asks him what he was thinking when he tried to help him. Yuyudo answers that he didn't like that his supposedly ally had turned against him. Guelt scoffs at his words, while Yuyudo tells him that since they are done talking with their fists, they should try to get along, just like the heroes and villains portrayed in many shounen manga. Guelt, being a cocky son of a gun, replies that if he wants a buddy, he should search Craigslist cause no one would want to become his friend without being paid to do it. After that, Guelt left the class while Yuyudo continued on with his life. That night, when Yuyudo returns home and heads to his room, he senses something odd going on. Gazing outside, he is shocked to find everything pitch black. Suddenly, Yuyudo hears a warning from his arcana, telling him that a threat is nearby and it's best if he escapes right now. As Yuyudo runs downstairs, he finds a hooded figure casually chowing down his dinner. Upon seeing Yuyudo, Hayda mockingly tells him he is a bit too old to have parents. Analyzing him, Yuyudo quickly realizes he is from Jinsei. When he asks him why he is breaking into someone else's house, Hayda responds by throwing the plate at him. He yells at him, revealing he has been watching him for nearly 2 nights, and there is no way he is a Demon King candidate. In return, Yuyudo asks him if he Aspet's underlying. This only makes Hera more upset as he tells Yuyudo to put some respect on his master's name. With that, he introduces himself, revealing that he is the world's ace. Realizing he is Aspet's second, Yuyudo becomes more guarded while Hayda mocks Guelt and Krieger for losing to him. Yuyudo quickly fires that he is the same guy. He was spying like a loser, which makes Hayda say that he is so bad at magic that he cannot even tell his house is under a spell. Flexing further, he claims that this house is now in another dimension, and while it can be entered from outside, the only way to get out is by being eliminated by him. With an evil smirk plastered on his ugly face, Hayda states that this is all a trap to lure his cards. At that moment, Yuyudo realizes he is not Hayda's target, but it's Lizle and the girls. Just then, Lizle and Miyabi arrive, and the moment they set foot in, Hayda snaps his fingers, making the girls kneel. Suddenly feeling exhausted, the girls claim that their mana is being sucked out, which only makes Hayda cackle wickedly. He then tells Lizle that he will hand her over to Aspet. Then, turning his attention towards Miyabi, he discloses how he plans to train her for his own sick pleasure. As Yuyudo racks his head over and over for a solution, Lizle whispers to him that Hayda's spell is weak from the outside, so if he manages to escape and break a piece of the house, the spell can be broken. However, when Yuyudo asks how, since they are completely trapped, Hayda chuckles and reveals that unless he knows teleportation, there is no chance of leaving. Upon hearing this, Yuyudo wonders if he can pull off a high-level spell like teleportation. Shrugging away his self-doubts, he realizes that he has no choice but to give it a go. So with that determination, he asks his arcana to teach him the spell. In return, Hayda mocks him for being a moron, stating that an arcana cannot teach him a teleportation spell. All of a sudden, Yuyudo yells, "Transert," and vanishes from sight, shocking Hayda. As he arrives outside, Yuyudo suddenly starts feeling weary, but pushes past his dizziness and asks his arcana to teach him a detonation spell. Upon learning it, he breaks a piece of his house, freeing Miyabi and Lizle from Hayda's evil clutches. Before Miyabi can teach that ugly brat a lesson, he disappears like a wimp. Turning her attention back to Yuyudo, both Miyabi and Lizle commend him for coming through. He weakly responds, expressing that he never thought his house would be under attack. The girls then reveal to him that it's because the Unveiling is getting closer, which is basically a ceremony where other candidates have to formally accept each other as opponents. As it turns out, this was Gandu's idea so that other Demon King candidates could acknowledge him. However, for Yuyudo, this is scary business as he will have to present himself in front of demons who belong to the elite class. Exactly a week later, Yuyudo stands in front of the auditorium, nervous about the Unveiling ceremony. The girls wish him luck as he now confidently steps in, realizing that only a few candidates showed up despite there being 22 arcanas. Shrugging away his thoughts, Yuyudo gives a small speech. As always, he begins hearing whispers about how he is a mere human being when Lizle steps forward, announcing that Yuyudo was chosen by the Lover's Arcana, and if anyone doubts him, they are directly doubting the Demon King War. In response, a voice mockingly tells Lizle that it is truly amazing that someone like her is trusting a human. Then, stepping out of the shadows, a female demon appears, making Yuyudo curious. Lizle quickly informs him that she is a Demon King candidate who owns the Arcana of the Star, and her name is Stella. With that, she calls Stella a real monster, which makes her smile as she tells Lizle that she will take it as a compliment. Turning her attention towards Yuyudo, she introduces herself quickly. However, the boy finds himself completely star-stuck as he recognizes Stella as the idol whose songs are always breaking charts. Not only that, when she stars in a movie, it always wins an Oscar, making Leonardo DiCaprio cry in shame. With his jaw on the drop, Yuyudo accidentally wonders aloud why someone like Stella would be a Demon King candidate. Finding his reaction funny, Stella answers Yuyudo's question by telling him that she already likes him. Still reeling from the shock, Yuyudo, however, admits to himself that Stella is a major cutie until she whispers to him that if he leaks this on social media, she will chop him up into pieces. That's when Yuyudo realizes that Lizle was right, Stella is a monster. Acting quickly, Lizle shields Yuyudo, causing Stella to step back. She assures Lizle that she is not a threat, yet. With that, she announces to everyone that she acknowledges Yuyudo as a candidate. She further urges everyone to accept Yuyudo, stating that if they accept him as a candidate, they will have one less rival to worry about. Upon hearing this, Yuyudo thinks to himself that Stella is right since he is a weak opponent in comparison to all the other candidates. Suddenly, another demon named Nate acknowledges him, which prompts other candidates to follow suit. However, they whisper just loud enough for Yuyudo to hear that his arcana is the weakest of all, and it is better if he just gives up now. Once everyone is done acknowledging him, they all vanish, leaving Yuyudo thinking about the lover's arcana being the weakest. All of a sudden, Aspet steps out from the shadows, stating that he will only acknowledge him on one condition. His card seems very eager to fight him. If he wins the battle, he will acknowledge his participation in the war. Lizle interjects and tells Aspet that all the other candidates have already accepted Yuyudo, but her master stops her and says that he accepts his condition. All of a sudden, Hayda appears from above, alerting everyone. Miyabi quickly drags Yuyudo away before he can get hit by Hayda's attack. As the dust settles, the crazy maniac asks them if they're surprised to see his special ability called Keep Out. At that moment, Yuyudo realizes that Hayda uses dimensional barriers as weapons. Further analyzing the current barrier, Yuyudo concludes that it is powerful and can forcefully split anything caught between the inside and the outside. Cackling wickedly, he asks Miyabi if he should chop off her huge assets since she refuses to be his. In response, Miyabi calls him disgusting, prompting Hayda to fire back that once Yuyudo loses to him, he will eventually turn her into his slave. Lizle steps up to Miyabi's defense and tells Hayda that she will make him regret being born, but Yuyudo quickly shields her. Addressing the monster directly, he asks him how he could dare to attack his home, putting his parents in danger. Hayda wickedly answers him that he doesn't pay attention to the ants walking on the ground. Yuyudo realizes enough talking and punches the daylights out of him, announcing that his crimes are unforgivable. Enraged by the assault, Hayda retaliates by using an explosive magic spell. Lizle tries to intervene and help Yuyudo when he signals her to stop, insisting that he wants to do this himself. Frustrated, Lizle asks him why he is acting so stubborn. However, Yuyudo doesn't bother responding. Instead, he faces Hayda head-on. He then tells the girls that if he can't even defeat a scum like Hayda, he is not fit to be a Demon King candidate. With that, he pleads with everyone to trust the process. Surprisingly, Lizle is the first one to tell Yuyudo that she understands. Miyabi tries to argue, but Lizle ignores her and tells Yuyudo that if she senses, she will intervene. However, she adds that if that happens, he will be considered inept as a Demon King candidate. Finding her requirements decent, Yuyudo agrees, prompting Lizle to replenish his mana. With that, she wishes him the best of luck. As Yuyudo faces Hayda, he instantly receives a few kicks and punches from him. Seeing him so worn out, Hayda tells him that it's time for him to realize his limitations. Yuyudo, however, tries to fight back, stating that if he doesn't try, he will never know. This only makes Hayda mock him even more as he discloses to Yuyudo that the lover's arcana has never produced a single good result in its history. He further adds that Lizle and the rest are just using him to toy with the rest of them because even they know he is incapable of winning. Yuyudo finally counters by telling Hayda that everyone is certain of him. That is why they took so much time to protect him and give him lessons. Suddenly, Hayda yelps in pain as his fingers twist oddly. As he yells at Yuyudo, he receives another punch from him. With that, he tells Hayda that he won't forgive him for disrespecting everyone who has supported him. And since he said the lover's arcana is the weakest, he will prove him wrong. As Hayda struggles to get up, he angrily asks Uyudo what he is acting so cocky for. Meanwhile, Lizle is amazed by just how much power Uyudo's punch was packing, because not only did it do damage to that scum, Hayda, but it also wiped out an entire block. Finally, Hayda regains his footing and fires multiple keep-out spells at Uyudo, prompting Lizle to warn him of the danger. Hayda, on the other hand, tells Uyudo that since he was preparing so many barriers at once, he couldn't conjure up any other spell. As Uyudo struggles to create some gap between himself and Hayda's deadly magic attack, he realizes that if even one of his barriers catches him, he is going to be eligible for the disabled parking spot for life. Meanwhile, Hayda tauntingly asks him just how long he is going to be running since he was yapping so much earlier. He also adds rudely that once he murders him, he will make Miyabi pay for all the insolence. Hearing his disgusting labels for Miyabi, Uyudo is unable to hold back his tongue. He warns Hayda not to speak about her like this, which makes Miyabi blush. In return, Hayda screams at him that he is going to die anyway, so Miyabi's fate as his personal slave is set in stone. Gathering up his mana, Uyudo then reveals that he will send him flying soon enough and fires a detonation spell towards him. Upon seeing the massive power of the spell, Hayda is confused as to why a lowly human can cast such a huge detonation spell. As the dust settles, Hayda is nowhere to be seen, while Uyudo turns to ask Lizle about his score. Smiling slightly, she reveals he has acquired full marks. As Uyudo wonders just where Aspet is, he is bamboozled by Miyabi's bazookas. Riene also reveals that she was very happy to see him fight and shall devote her life to him. When Stella appears, Uyudo asks her if he accidentally harmed her during the fight. She bluntly replies that he did hurt her, which prompts Uyudo to apologize weakly. Another girl arrives, and Stella quickly introduces Uyudo to her by revealing that she is Nate, whose arcana is the chariot. Once Nate greets him, Uyudo realizes that she is rather meek. His attention is then shifted to Stella, who tells him that he is quite an interesting candidate and asks him to hang out with her. Intervening quickly, Lizle states that Uyudo is tired, so she can meet him some other day. Observing her behavior, Stella slyly asks her if she is jealous, making Lizle blush in embarrassment. This only makes Stella provoke her further as she calls Uyudo a cutie. While the girls tussle over him, Uyudo ends up losing consciousness. Moments later, he opens his eyes, wondering why his body feels like it's being cushioned by an ultimate pillow. Suddenly, he hears Lizle tell him that he is at the lover's palace. As he struggles to get out of her grasp, she holds him more tightly, stating that he cannot just move yet. Uyudo, now flustered, tells Lizle that it feels wrong of him to do this, but the Dami Mommy assures him that he should let his mana replenish now. When he asks about Stella and Nate, Lizle tells him not to worry about the girls and instead rejoice over the fact that he can finally participate in the war. However, she also apologizes to him, revealing that it would have been safer for him if he had been disqualified. In return, Uyudo confidently asserts that he wishes to win the Demon King War with all of them, as he is determined to change the future where humans are no longer seen as slaves by the demons. When he asks her about his performance in the recent battle, Lizle smiles and tells him that he was wonderful, and not just as the Demon King candidate but as a young man. Feeling utterly pleased by his latest fight, Lizle admits that even if she didn't belong to a house that served the lover's arcana, she would still, but before she can finish her words, Uyudo grabs her. Just when the plot is about to get steamy, Miyabi and Riene barge in, causing Uyudo to freak out. In the end, he accidentally ends up showing his little Uyudo to his entire cuddle crew. As he struggles to hide his family jewels, Miyabi teasingly tells him that it's impressive how it's bubblegum pink and curved to the side. Chiming in agreement, Riene also compliments him while Lizle apologizes to him for all this, revealing that she had to go all out since his mana depletion was too intense this time. Flustered, Uyudo shyly asks if Miyabi and Riene are joining in as well. Lizle confirms this, informing Uyudo that the combo of direct skinship and water will, but before she can complete her explanation, Miyabi's tankers send ripples through the entire bathtub. To tease him further, Miyabi's plot armor comes undone, which turns Yuyudo into a man instantly. Seeing his reaction, Riene tries to follow suit, which makes Yuyudo seek Lizle's help. However, in response, Lizle starts to take off her own bazooka protectors, announcing that they will commence operation, healing Yuyudo. Meanwhile, at the world's palace, Hayda weakly tells Aspet that he will try to get Yuyudo next time, but he responds by throwing him against the wall. Without sparing him a look, Aspet states that he just has useless trash, and with that, he announces that he will get Lizle himself. Later at the coffee shop, Lizle informs Yuyudo that she received a text from Riene and she'll be here soon enough. Since it's a Sunday, Yuyudo thinks to himself that even demons like to spend their free time sipping coffee like normal human beings. Earlier that day, Lizle had texted him about their bikini shopping for the summer camp and had asked if he'd like to come. Jumping on that opportunity, he quickly agreed, and thanks to his smart decision, he is now able to see Lizle in her casual attire. Meanwhile, Miyabi pigs out on a dessert which makes Lizle remind her that it's not even lunch yet. However, she replies that it won't be a problem for her until Lizle casually drops the F-word. The atmosphere suddenly darkens as Lizle tells Miyabi that getting flabby is easy, and so is losing people's trust. That's why fatties and untrustworthy people are all the same, since both of them are destroyers of chairs. In response, Miyabi counters by stating that she doesn't care since all her fat transfers to her chest pillows. Hearing this, Yuyudo's sweat drops while Lizle quietly admits defeat. When Miyabi asks where she stores her fat, Lizle reveals that she hates her upper arms and calves. However, she quickly tells Yuyudo that she has never dieted in her life, prompting him to quickly state that she doesn't need to since she already has that Pixar mommy built on her. However, this causes Miyabi to tease Lizle, and a whole new Pandora box opens much to Yuyudo's displeasure. Finally, Riene arrives and apologizes for her tardiness. Seeing her big black sword, Yuyudo asks her why she brought this with her. Riene reveals that she wants to protect him as swift as possible in case they encounter any dangerous situation. Hearing this, Yuyudo starts petting her gently much to Miyabi and Lizle's dismay. Noticing the deathly glares, Yuyudo quickly announces it's time to be on the go. Finally, arriving at the mall, Yuyudo notices the onlookers, which makes him sigh as he realizes that the stairs are obvious, since he is hanging out with three beauties. Clearing his throat, he asks about the training camp, and Lizle reveals that depending on his growth, their destination may change. Jumping on the opportunity, Miyabi asks if they can go to Hawaii. However, Riene nervously says that she doesn't have the money to fly to Hawaii. Lizle assures the whole group that the trip will be fully funded by her. As she assures Yuyudo to not worry about the money, he quietly wonders why Riene is so poor when she is also a noble like them. Shrugging away his thoughts, Yuyudo realizes the girls are planning on bikini shopping, so he tries to go at the men's section when Lizle steps him and insists that he joins them. Miyabi grabs another one of his arm, stating that they want him to pick their swimsuits. At that moment, Yuyudo wonders when did he sign up for this role. Nonetheless, he stands by the changing room when Miyabi tells him to come inside. When he makes a futile attempt to resist, she drags him inside. Frustrated, Yuyudo demands what she is doing when she tells him to be quiet since both Riene and Lizle are in the next booths. Just when he is about to scold her, he becomes completely speechless seeing Miyabi's hot bod. After a while, Yuyudo asks her if she is planning to wear that bikini in public. Hearing this, she asks him if he is worried about others seeing her like this. Yuyudo tries to find the right answer when Miyabi admits that it makes her happy, seeing him so possessive. With that said, she closes the gap between them and asks him if he likes her swimsuit. Yuyudo struggles to answer, and when he finally tells her that he likes it, Miyabi takes this as a signal and throws it back, which makes Yuyudo's little Yuyudo all excited. Suddenly, the door opens and Lizle walks in, catching Miyabi and Yuyudo in the exact same position which was used to create you. Gulping down the terror, Yuyudo looks at the black bikini worn by Lizle, realizing that she looks absolutely divine in it. Meanwhile, Lizle sighs and tells Miyabi that it's not okay for her to go into heat whenever she likes. When Yuyudo laughs at the word heat, Lizle reveals that the lover's arcana leaves them under an influence which causes them to act out sometimes. In response, Miyabi reveals that she is just being honest and open about her feelings, and quickly adds that if she doesn't want to do this kind of stuff Yuyudo, then she doesn't have to. Now embarrassed, Lizle shyly states that she does want to do it, but she has to restrain herself. During her crash out, Lizle claims that she has to place a lot of importance towards the great Demon King War, and that is why she cannot act so selfishly. In return, Miyabi also angrily expresses that she cares about the war too. It's just, she doesn't like lying about her feelings. Just when Lizle admits that she wants to do the dirty dance with Yuyudo, everyone grows quiet. Fortunately, Riene arrives in time and says that fighting isn't a good thing. Upon seeing her, Miyabi asks Yuyudo to at least decide who has a better bikini among them. Sighing deeply, he takes Riene's hand and states that she has won this round. Finally, after a hectic shopping spree, it's time to go home. Lizle tells Yuyudo that she will drop him home while Miyabi and Riene bid goodbye for the day. Suddenly, Lizle receives a call, so she tells Yuyudo to wait for her. Unsure how long it'll take, he decides to pass time by going inside a bookstore where he comes across a photo book of Stella. Just then, a girl bumps into him. When he looks up, he realizes it's none other than Stella in the flesh. As he lets out an exaggerated scream, Stella quickly hushes him, stating there is no need for him to be so surprised, but Yuyudo reasons that it's rare for him to see a superstar using bookstores for commoners. Without further arguments, Stella grabs his hand and takes him outside, stating that she wants to have a little chat with him. When Yuyudo appears weary of her, she quickly assures him that she doesn't intend to finish him off here. With that said, she reveals that a lot of the candidates did not come to acknowledge him, but she has eyes on him because he is the man that Lizle has placed her trust in. Upon hearing this, Yuyudo states that she appears to look up to Lizle. Stella confirms this, revealing that he has no idea what a powerhouse Lizle really is. In fact, there was a rumor that she'd become a Demon King candidate herself, but then a human came along and turned her into a card. With that, Stella bluntly tells Yuyudo that if Lizle switches to another candidate, it would be better for her as she'd be able to maintain her nobility status. Hearing this, he realizes that all of them had an option of backing out but still chose to support him. Seeing him well up, Stella asks Yuyudo if he is crying. When he refuses to answer, she changes the question and asks him how he came to possess the lover's arcana. Yuyudo reveals that he just woke up and it was on his pillow. This makes her curious as she tells him that he learns quickly and his magic power is also quite strong. Edging closer to him, Stella starts sniffing him and admits that he smells like a plain human to her. When she asks Yuyudo if Lizle teaches him spells, he reveals that it's the arcana that teaches him the spells. Startled, Stella asks him to elaborate and Yuyudo states that that's pretty much it. The arcana talks to him and teaches him things. However, Stella has a hard time believing him when Yuyudo tells her that there's something he wants to know as well. She jokingly retorts that she doesn't have a boyfriend, but Yuyudo shuts her up by asking why she's working as an idol when she's nobility, and a Demon King candidate on top of that. Turning away from him, Stella reveals that she absorbs people's energy boosted from their emotions during her performances. However, when she does turn to look at Yuyudo, her face twists into sick pleasure as she reveals that she wants to become the supreme ruler by dominating everyone with her charms. Suddenly, a bunch of onlookers notice her and come to take pictures. Stella quickly whispers to Yuyudo that she'll talk soon and runs away. Meanwhile, Yuyudo realizes that even Demon King candidates need energy from other human beings. However, with that, he also reflects on how he has no confidence to face these overpowered demons, but if it's for Lizle and others, he'll push past his fears and do it scared. In the meantime, Lizle opens her eyes and finds herself caged up. It finally clicks to her, and she says that the Line family always has such poor taste as Aspet looks at her. Upon seeing the Nepo scum, Lizle asks him why he is doing this. Aspet replies by telling her that an untamed dog needs to be chained until its will is broken. However, Lizle counters that she didn't agree to being subjected to such poor treatment. In return, Aspet tells her that her consent is not something that matters to him, which causes Lizle to comment on how he is always so arrogant. Ignoring her remark, Aspet orders her to become his card. However, Lizle smiles and tells him that she already belongs to Yuyudo, so if he interferes any further, it won't be forgiven. But when she tries to use magic, Lizle realizes that she can't use it anymore. Smirking like Satan himself, Aspet then reveals that this is his personal spell called World Revision, where he has created a dimension in which he is the supreme ruler. Hearing his explanation allows Lizle to come up with the perfect insult, as she tells him that his world is narrow, just enough for him to shut himself into. Now ticked off, Aspet throws Lizle against the wall and then further torments her by using magic spells on her. He further tells her that he is the strongest and is already the demon king, therefore she belongs to him. Seeing her hung up like a sack of meat, Aspet asks her if she finally understands her position. Lizle, however, remains calm and tells him that while his powers are certainly amazing, she will never be his, no matter what. Aspet's smirk widens as he tells Lizle that if he wipes out the lover's arcana, then she won't have any choice but to obey him. He also adds that if she kneels before him now, then he will allow the Heimgami family to keep existing. With that, he drops Lizle to the ground and steps on her, announcing that he'll throw a party for her where he will make Yuyudo beg for his life in front of her. Meanwhile, Yuyudo calls the girls as they search for Lizle. Upset, he states that it's useless since he already searched everywhere for her. Even the servants of the Heimgami household carried out a search, but like him, they couldn't find a single clue where Lizle had gone off. The girls ask Yuyudo what should be done now, but he remains quiet, unable to give them an answer. The next day at school, the girls try to cheer Yuyudo up by saying that Lizle will surely return when a voice tells them that they're wrong. Guelt arrives, revealing that Lizle won't be coming back. Enraged, Yuyudo grabs him by the collar and demands to know what's going on. Guelt answers by stating that Lizle was kidnapped by Aspet. As Yuyudo lets go of him, Guelt tells him to patiently listen, and discloses that Aspet wants Lizle as his card, after he murders him, of course. Furthermore, Aspet is probably laying a trap for him as they speak, and an invitation will soon arrive where he'll be called to an arena, as that is where he plans to murder him. And finally, when he is out of the way, Aspet will break Lizle so she can comply with him. After a pause, Yuyudo asks Guelt if it's okay for him to give him all this information. Instead of replying to him, Guelt gives him a piece of paper which has the address of Guelt's mansion. However, Yuyudo once again asks him if it's all right for him to do all this. This time, Guelt tells him that since they're friends or something, it should be okay. The girls cheer for the boys as Guelt pushes the paper in Yuyudo's hand, who commends him for being sensible and moral. Now embarrassed, Guelt tells him to shut up and reveals that Aspet's is a real monster, so he should prepare for a real fight as his mana is no joke, and he can also learn magic spells very fast. But what makes him a true monster is his spell, World Revision, which is kind of like a barrier where he is completely invincible. With that, Guelt turns away, praying that he wins because if he doesn't, he is next in line. In response, Yuyudo assures him that he will save Lizle and not let anyone harm him. By the day's end, the trio headed towards Aspet's mansion to save Lizle. Looking at the map given by Guelt, Yuyudo states that getting inside won't be a problem, prompting Riene to say that she hopes they can rescue Lizle without being discovered. Suddenly, Stella arrives asking them if they're taking a night stroll. Surprised to see her, Yuyudo asks what she is doing here when Stella counter-questions by asking if they're here to rescue Lizle from Aspet. Seeing how Stella seems to be unfazed, Yuyudo asks her if she predicted all this. In response, Stella proudly admits that as the Demon King candidate, she knows these types of things. With that, she asks Yuyudo if he has a fighting plan. When Yuyudo admits that he doesn't have a plan, Stella asks him whether he would like her to destroy Aspet for him. Startled by Stella's proposition, Yuyudo thinks for a second, wondering what she could be cooking in her little head. So, he thanks her for the offer but confirms with her if she is really going to help them. That's when Stella states that there is just one condition: she will keep Lizle. In exchange for taking Aspet down, she will be the one to make Lizle her card. Yuyudo rejects her offer, stating that they are literally here to get Lizle out of Aspet's clutches. Stella, in response, points out that if he rejects her offer, then Aspet will surely keep Lizle as not just a card, but will also turn her into his personal fun toy. But if Lizle were to become her card, she'd treat her very well. Yuyudo now finds himself at a crossroad, knowing that Stella has a better shot at winning against Aspet. And if he loses against Aspet, not only will he lose Lizle, but Riene and Miyabi will pay the price as well. Smirking at him, Stella urges him to make the deal, but Yuyudo tells her that he will solve this on his own. With that, he apologizes to the girls and Stella. Once all loose ends are tied, he yells transert and vanishes with his cuddle crew. Left alone, Stella smirks, excited to see what Yuyudo has got. As they arrive inside the mansion, Yuyudo wobbles, prompting Riene to ask him if he is okay. He assures her that he's fine, but teleporting 3 people at once has taken a toll on him. So in response, Riene signals him to rest on her thighs. As Yuyudo does so, Miyabi takes his hand and puts it on her airbags. For a moment, he realizes how non-serious all of this looks. Once Yuyudo is done replenishing his mana, he and the girls start to navigate around the mansion. Noticing how eerily empty it is, Yuyudo cannot help but think that it's all a trap. Suddenly, they enter a room where he sees Lizle confined. Yuyudo tries to approach her, but she yells at him to stay away, revealing that it's a trap. Out of nowhere, a sword falls from the ceiling, and Yuyudo hears a familiar voice telling him that he could have died a painless death. As Yuyudo comes face to face with Aspet, Lizle tells him to run, but he assures her that they will leave this crap hole together. Suddenly, Aspet snaps his fingers and his cards surround Yuyudo and his cuddle crew. Seeing this, he asks the girls if they can take care of the extras for him. The girls assure him they're going to be fine, which prompts Yuyudo to vow that he will most definitely win this fight. Pleased by his enthusiasm, Miyabi quickly lets out her inner monster, and Riene follows suit. Meanwhile, Yuyudo faces Aspet, who calls him a stupid idiot for facing him alone. His arcana suddenly warns him to stay alert, which makes Yuyudo wonder why the lover's arcana is warning him when Aspet hasn't even done anything. Analyzing the situation, Yuyudo concludes that he simply can't win this fight by playing safe, so without further thoughts, he makes his first move. Yet when he fires Fizzard, Yuyudo is shocked to see the flame was repelled. Smirking maliciously, Aspet arrogantly tells Yuyudo that he simply cannot win against him. Seeing his shocked face, Aspet asks him if he finally realized how powerless he is in front of him. Meanwhile, Yuyudo thinks to himself how this barrier of Aspet is completely different from Hayda's barrier. So he asks his arcana whether tackling down Aspet would do him any good, but the arcana reveals that exclusive contact is ineffective against this barrier. Realizing the fight cannot be won through physical contact, Yuyudo tries to get closer to Aspet, but the demon remains unfazed. In fact, Yuyudo is sent flying away without Aspet lifting his finger. Seeing him all shattered, Aspet smirks and asks him if he will finally admit defeat. In response, Yuyudo tries again. This time he hopes to break the barrier, but ends up receiving a gut-wrenching kick to his stomach. Watching Yuyudo get treated like a rag doll, Lizle pleads with him to stop fighting. However, he weakly tells her that he is fine, and once he finishes up this battle, they will go home together. Meanwhile, Aspet announces that it's time for him to return the favor and fires a magic spell at him. Lizle yells at him to get away, but Yuyudo's body refuses to move. Lizle yells out his name, and thankfully Yuyudo manages to escape with his life just in time. Seeing him alive, Aspet tells him that he shouldn't get too cocky because he will die soon anyway. In response, Yuyudo scurries away, which makes Aspet laugh as he taunts Lizle for placing his faith in that human. Meanwhile, Yuyudo creates a safe distance, but Aspet tells him that he can't bother with this game of hide and seek, and directs a powerful spell. Luckily, Yuyudo manages to escape once again, now coming to terms with just how powerful Aspet truly is. After finding a safe room, Yuyudo asks his arcana just what are the odds of him winning. The arcana replies, 0%. Suddenly the roof breaks apart as Aspet arrives, stating that he finally found him. Continuing, he tells Yuyudo that if he stops now, he will spare his life. Seeing him afloat in the air, Yuyudo realizes that the demon is looking down on him. Suddenly, his arcana tells him that Aspet isn't merely using a levitation spell. Coming down, Aspet orders Yuyudo to bow before the next demon king. In return, Yuyudo tells him to stop joking around, which causes him to suffer Aspet's wrath. As Yuyudo lies flatly in front of the demon, he hears him say that if he values his life, then he should beg for mercy. Gritting his teeth in anger, Yuyudo wonders if this is what his world revision is capable of, where all laws of physics are nullified and all magic is rendered useless. Recalling how his arcana told him that if they don't understand the science behind the world revision, then their odds of winning are slim. Yuyudo also begins to reflect on the difference between humans and demons. Suddenly, he tells Aspet that he finally understands his world revision. In response, Aspet tells Yuyudo that he is going to crush him. However, Yuyudo counters that he can't, because if he applies too much pressure, then he will crush him too. Continuing, he reveals the reason he sat down earlier was because he was unable to withstand the growing gravitational force. So to conclude, his world revision is basically writing the laws of the world. Gritting his teeth in anger, Aspet asks him if he thinks his world revision is merely altering gravity. Yuyudo assures him that he knows it's not that simple. The spell itself is powerful, making him the omniscient demon lord, but his powers only extend to this tiny little world. Now pissed, Aspet grabs Lizle by the throat and darkly tells Yuyudo that just because he understands the science behind his spell, he still can't do anything. With that, he raises Lizle in the air and orders her to become his card, or else Yuyudo dies. But when she looks at him apathetically, Aspet becomes more furious and punishes her with lightning magic, stating that up till now, he has gotten everything that he ever wanted. Turning his wrath on Yuyudo, Aspet states that he is dead meat now. Yuyudo is further backed in the corner as his arcana reveals that his mana is at 5%, and chances of victory is still 0%. Cussing his fate, Yuyudo warns Aspet to not lay a single finger on Lizle, but of course, the demon arrogantly states that it's only natural for the strong to bleed the weak dry. Yuyudo tries to argue, but Aspet responds by twisting Lizle's arm. Seeing this, Yuyudo enters a rage mode, something that nobody has seen before. Lizle smiles and tells Aspet that this is the true power of the lover's arcana, infinite lovers. Do you think Yuyudo has what it takes to take down Aspet? To find out, comment Renee is the best girl. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to the channel for similar content. Thanks for watching.